When the news broke yesterday about Arsenal's growing interest in Italy and Bologna's Riccardo Calafiori, I was surprised when Fabrizio Romano confirmed Arsenal's acceleration of a deal worth around £42 million. And we're going to talk in today's video about my opinion on the transfer, why I'm not yet totally convinced by an undoubtedly superb footballer. We're also going to talk about and give a detailed profiling of Calafiori, his tactical fit in Arteta's Arsenal, as well as what this means for the rest of Arsenal's summer squad building. Welcome back to the Harvey Gratian YouTube channel. I'm so glad you found us or are joining us once again. There's a lot to cover, so let's get on with it, starting with a Calafiori profiling. And we're going to start with out of possession. I think the aggression of Calafiori is the first thing that the new viewer would notice with him. And although the calculated aggression that has been coached into Gabriel will need to be mapped onto Calafiori too, I want to focus instead on what Calafiori's aggression allows him to do when he gets touch tight to an attacker, because it's very difficult to pin Calafiori. That's because of his core and upper body strength, but also because of his legs, and it's their span and their reach, but also how flexible they are to reach around and pinch a ball from an attacker. This means that Calafiori commands a large space either when defending his box or in isolated duels out wide, and this links to how we evaluate the true value of Calafiori for a club like Arsenal, who defensively, the most important attributes are locking down those 1v1 specialists out wide like your Dokus, your Komans, your Dembeles, and or covering those vast distances running back towards your own goal. I think Calafiori is very close to being this defender in channel defending and 1v1 isolation already. Why is that? Well, it's his explosivity and the way he shifts his weight across both feet and stays low to the ground at all times. It makes him very difficult to outmaneuver, especially in those static 1v1s. And this is a massive upgrade on Jakub Kiwior, who approaches these situations far too upright and doesn't have the same upper body and core strength. However, I'm going to stress this so much through the video to get this point across. Calafiori is not the finished article. We are buying a project. We are buying someone who has genuine monster strides across the turf, an exceptional burst, and we're going to get onto what that means on the ball just a bit later. But I think don't mistake his running power to raw pace also, because he doesn't have the blistering pace of a prime Kyle Walker or a Gabriel, to use Manchester City as a benchmark. But I'm not too worried about that in Arsenal's system, if I'm honest with you. I'd probably call Calafiori a Gabriel light type. And all in all, if I had to summarise, especially out of possession, what Arsenal are getting their hands on, a near elite 1v1 dueler, a very competent, if not dominant, space behind defender, with, in my opinion, probably a 2-year development plan in order to reach his potential as a pure defender. And in this plan, we're going to be looking to cut out his overzealousness in engaging, especially out wide in the duel, which can seem caught out at times or engage in too many fouls. But his mental attributes are a reason why I'm confident in, like I said, probably about a 2-year development plan doing this. He's already overcome, Calafiori, a potentially career-threatening injury, and his intelligence on the pitch speaks volumes to a very clever football brain. Oh, and he's also very accomplished in the air, so set piece FC to continue. Right. Anyway, in possession, here are where things get a little bit interesting with Calafiori. The most valuable things for me about the player on the ball are, number one, the responsibility he takes, and two, the range of value that starts from the back and extends all the way into the final third. But first, let's talk responsibility. I think right now people see Calafiori's swashbuckling carries and off-ball runs up the pitch, which is totally right, but when we're talking about responsibility and the player as a kind of project, we're also buying potential central centre-back depth, someone who can be a build-up general, lead in touches and dictate from deeper. But for now, Calafiori is too much of a mover to do that. See this quote from his former manager now, Thiago Motta. Motta stresses Calafiori's need to come from behind to take advantage of tight spaces, requiring dynamic arrivals instead of occupying the space outright. Again, Arteta will coach this side of his game, and Calafiori also already has a really good groundwork to play in these tighter spaces, as Motta says himself, just as we've seen his sort of libero-esque left centre-back role for Bologna and his inverted rotations into the pivot from centre-back this season. This links to Calafiori's range of value across the pitch. He can break a press via carrying, something I've really been wanting to add to the Arsenal build-up, and it's why I've been exploring options like Alphonso Davies, or via the same sort of line cutters Gabriel has developed, all the switches of play. Calafiori can also do this in higher areas too, and he takes a lot more risks on the ball than the Brazilian, and more on that later. For the smaller space work, Calafiori has a really smooth turning radius, similar to Gvardiol again, and is uniquely associative, I think, for a defender. At Arsenal, I think we're often going to see him combining this associativeness with his more powerful big space runs from deep, using Rice like Abisha, I think that's how you pronounce it, but I've been really impressed with him at the Euros anyway, but using Rice like Abisha for Bologna and charging into midfield when Rice swings into that left back, left centre back role that he likes to, then using Havertz like Xerxes as a backboard to play 1-2s with and springboard attacks. This dynamism and also becoming more matter of fact with how Arsenal attack is something that I spoke about in my last video and wanting to add, and in typical Arteta fashion, he does things from back to front, but Calafiori is someone who takes the game by the scruff of the neck. He's brave and can change a picture even when it looks set in place, and this is now where I want to move on to discussing his tactical fit for Arsenal. And before we get onto any systems or positional stuff, how does Calafiori add these moments of dynamism and efficiency that are really natural in his game to this Arsenal side? We'll take this example from the Bayern Munich game. Bayern Munich are pinned in and we are squeezing them with Gabriel, the left centre-back, stepping higher, but without Timber, this left-hand side lacked against Bayern. That combination play here, or a bit of bravery to take advantage of our sustained pressure and game break. Calafiori, as I call it, can be this squeezer type centre-back, and here if he swaps in for Gabriel's left centre-back role, and we're going to get onto the greater variety of roles that Calafiori can play in just a second, but if he does this, we are taking his ability to carry the ball over 15 to 20 yards and support Martinelli on the under, but most importantly overlap, cross or dynamically interchange with the left interior, and then allow Calafiori to be that chaos creator in the final third. So the Gabriel more rigid left centre-back role is a clear option for Calafiori, but there would literally be no point in the signing if this was all Calafiori brought. That doesn't move the needle enough. I think the option of a more aggressive in-possession option at left centre-back makes and returns the idea of the 3-diamond-3 setup, with Calafiori at left centre-back pushing the qualities of Jurrien Timber that we saw against Nottingham Forest into left centre-mid instead. Or Timber is shifted to right-back where he inverts into midfield alongside Declan Rice, and here you can continue with a diamond and have that same dynamic that we had with Thomas Partey inverting from right-back, or go with the familiar box, or even you have the same dynamic as sort of the New Year period of last season for Arsenal, where Ben White was inverting more and more from right back and Kivior at left back was staying wider. It's another potential role for Calafiori. It doesn't stop there though, because as we've discussed, Calafiori has a real range of uses to his profile that extend beyond a narrow left back or left centre back berth. He definitely has it within him to play the modern day libero or the John Stones role for City at Premier League level. For example, only 2 centre-backs across Europe's top 5 leagues ranked in the 90th percentile or above for aerial win rate and progressive carries this season. That's John Stones and Calafiori. And the inverted centre-back role, I think, is really important with these stats because it's one that emphasises carrying much more than an inverted fullback. That's just by nature of where you're joining the midfield from, meaning Calafiori has the potential to be really useful at multiple points in our build-up. And of course, I'll save this for last because it's the most obvious and the one that I actually brought up in and around the January time, which was I was quite happy with, seeing that we're heavily linked with Calafiori now. But Calafiori also has the potential of mirroring White's hybrid fullback centre-back role on the other side. And while I think they are different players in profile, and we can talk about that in the comments if you want, this role would mean Calafiori would put his own spin on it. Being this natural marauding defender type, he can overlap, although situationally and condition-based like White. But we also want our left-footed defender signing to be comfortable in all areas of our left-hand-sided pods, I think. And Calafiori can tuck into a back three, obviously, or he can squeeze in that 2-3-5 in the final third, or dynamically arrive in higher spaces between the lines. He also has the quality, Calafiori, Calafiori to mimic Gvardiol's specific role for Pep at Manchester City. Again, when Rice swings deeper, or if we can create that midfield overload without Calafiori, like Timber against City in the Community Shield, Calafiori can be that release valve and push higher and wider on the left-hand side. This release valve is literally what Gvardiol has been as an outlet for Manchester City off the left this season, or Ben White is at times for Arsenal. Carry the team up the pitch with them aggressively, and those same purposeful carries are the one that literally knocked us out of the Champions League with Joshua Kimmich, pinning us so deep with those carries up the pitch in the Champions League. And I think Calafiori has the potential to essentially be this different kind of outlet for us there. And look, I maintain it's paramount to source a natural and a pure overlapper for our left-hand side, from a more specialist left-back. But I think Arteta has been tracking this sort of front-footed anticipator who glides gracefully but powerfully across the pitch on the left-hand side for quite a while now. But to finish, I'm going to talk about my overall opinions on the signing, as well as the ramifications for Arsenal's summer squad building. Because I think, first of all, the reason why everyone, including myself, was surprised by the Calafiori deal, or how quickly it seems to be motoring, is that for all the Arteta signings so far, they all seem so calculated, pre-planned and methodical. And this is not to say that Calafiori isn't that, because he will have been on an Arsenal list for a long, long time. For example, this is someone that I've brought up on the channel since January. Arteta will have known about him, but I think with the context of the discussion about Calafiori on social media, it seems not as pre-planned and calculated with his success and his standout qualities in the Euros for Italy than the other Arteta signings. And I think that surprise has shaped a lot of the initial dialogue on Calafiori, and I hope this video, for example, is something that gets you thinking more specifically about the player and his unique skill set. But I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I am still very surprised that we are so seriously keen on Calafiori, and the £42 million deal that's being reported is around the upper limit I would consider paying for him. And it's probably because it definitely defers a Joel Hato or Ousmane Diomande type deal to later down the line. Of course, he's a project as opposed to ready-made Calafiori, and I'm probably not going to totally buy into the signing or even the rumours of us signing him until it's much clearer that he's really on the doorstep of London Colney. And I'm probably only going to be in love with the signing once or if we get other business done. But what's really important to always realise, guys, is that we don't know who is accessible and who isn't. Calafiori, his profile, as we've touched on, is someone that has the ceiling of an elite all-aspect defender. He gives us some, albeit some, but some of the on-ball qualities to start thinking about improving our left-hand-sided dynamics and also bulletproof our build-up. And importantly, Calafiori does not block a route for a more specialist left-back that I've seen people suggesting. Because, guys, he is the Kivior upgrade. When you start seeing the signing like this, Kivior's likely departure to somewhere like Juventus, Mikel wanting, I think, more of a defensive carousel of people he can trust, Calafiori being able to join up with the squad pretty quickly in pre-season. Remember, Italy are out of the Euros now. The deputies to Saliba's central centre-back being seen as in-house options now. And this, on a side note, it's all well and good this being revealed to us, but we have to see that now, Arteta. You can't play Saliba every single minute of a Premier League season again. We don't want to completely break him down. So that needs to be proved to us. But if you start seeing it like this, on top of a Mikel Arteta development plan for Calafiori, as well as him clearly believing that he can be an elite defender down the line, I think it starts to make a little bit more sense. And of course, more light will be shed on things when we complete further transactions going later down the line this summer. But of course, it isn't good news for people like Alexander Zinchenko either, because again, our shared responsibilities in build-up mean a more fixed pivot partner for Rice, like Zinchenko, is becoming more and more redundant, but Zinchenko's departure coincides with the arrival of a more specialist left-back if we can source that. But in terms of a specialist left-back, the three-man left-footed defender shortlist that has been revealed by Fabrizio Romano that Arteta and Arsenal have suggests Arteta still wants that profile. It also means Jurrien Timber may become more full-back depth and more of a pure midfielder next season. Again, I've been suggesting that for a while. But overall, I think don't expect Calafiori to instantly move heaven and earth. Again, he's a project player, but I really hope you've enjoyed this complete deep dive on Riccardo Calafiori, what he's going to bring to the Arsenal team, because there's no doubt, guys, we are buying, potentially, a really talented footballer and someone who I'm quite confident is going to reach a really elite level in the defender market. So that's my deep dive on him. I really hope you've enjoyed. Give me your opinions down below. Like, comment, subscribe. I only asked you to do that right at the end of the video, as you know. I really hope you've enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.